Think you make decisions. You don't. Most of the time, you react. You see an option, you feel a thing, you pick one. You're not thinking, that's just pattern recognition. They were built when you were broke, when you had nothing at stake. And the patterns are running right now. Bezos, Musk, Munger, Naval, these guys don't just have more money. They have completely different operating systems in their heads. Okay, so I've been going down a rabbit hole lately, and I know how that sounds. Guy on YouTube tells you how billionaires think. Bear with me for a second here. So, because the stuff I found actually changed how I make decisions day to day, I used to think successful people just had better ideas. What I found out may surprise you. Same ideas. Real question. When's the last time you made a decision, like a real one, without overthinking it for 3 days? Yeah, me neither. But it turns out most of us are running on the same broken decision-making process on autopilot. And the people who are actually winning, well, let's just say you might be surprised. I'm going to show you exactly what they replaced it with. They don't just think about different things. They think differently about everything. And the gap, the difference in how they think versus how you think, that's the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. Today I'm going to be breaking down the frameworks that have helped me and that they actually use. Not the motivational stuff, the real sauce. Let's get into it. So, obviously I'm not a billionaire. I'm 24, I'm building an agency and just trying to figure out YouTube, and I'm figuring this out in public. But me and Luke Belmar are studying. The people who are where I want to be. Section 1, the 70% rule. Jeff Bezos has a rule for making decisions. 70% of the information you want, that's all he uses to make the call. Most of the time when you have 90% certainty, the opportunity is already gone. Where the risk is today is what will be obvious 10 years from now. Think of Bitcoin, for example. When your Uber driver or your parents are telling you to invest in Dogecoin, you probably already missed the boat. But most people I know, including me, in fact, this is something I'm really bad at, but actively working on. We wait until the opportunity feels safe, and that feeling of safety usually ends up costing you in missed opportunities. An example I can think about for myself was Amazon FBA in the end of 2019. So I was going to sell black face masks on Amazon right when everything was going on. No one else was doing it yet when I checked, and it seemed like a good idea from the research I did. But I didn't end up going forward with it, because I needed to pay for my tuition, so I played it safe. But a couple years later, I ended up checking using a Chrome extension, and then an Amazon store doing this exact same idea was making $50K a month. I have more examples like this, but this is a real example of the cost of choosing the safe path. $50K a month. I'm still pissed about this. Should have dropped out and just risked it all, but this is what it is. So the speed of learning beats perfect information, and sometimes you just gotta take the riskier option instead of playing it safe. You're not waiting for clarity. Most of the time you're just choosing the easier path instead of doing what you know. These are two completely different things here. Section 2, Type 1 versus Type 2 decisions, revolving door. Here's something I think about from time to time. Not every decision is the same. There are Type 1 decisions, the ones that are basically irreversible. Selling your company, moving across the world, major partnerships, or who you're going to marry. These deserve deep thought and consideration, obviously, since they're not very easy to reverse. Then there are Type 2 decisions. These are the revolving door decisions. More easily reversible, lower risk, easier to change. Like some examples are a new outreach strategy, or different offer, testing a new campaign, getting a job for this company or that company. And here's the problem. Most people, they treat Type 2 decisions like they're Type 1. They agonize and overthink, then delay what needs to be done. And while they're doing that, the people who are winning are already 5 tests deep. They've already taken massive action in the same thing that you're considering doing. This YouTube channel is an example of this. Instead of making the best videos I can once a week, I try to compete on quality and make as much content as I can. So if you can undo the decisions and you can come back to it, decide fast. The most successful people I've learned from make these types of decisions almost instantly. I'm trying to get to this level, but obviously it comes with the reps to speed up doing this. If it can't be undone, then take your time. This alone should help speed up your productivity. Section 3, First Principles, Musk. Most people think by analogy. This is how it's been done, or this is what everyone is doing. Elon Musk popularized this, but I think Charlie Munger mentioned this first, which, by the way, Charlie's Almanac, legendary book, or Poor Charlie's Almanac, I think. Legendary book if you haven't read it. He asks, what are the actual fundamentals here? Not what's conventional or what's being done. What do I know to be true? When SpaceX started the rockets, they were crazy expensive. Everyone in the industry said, yeah, there's no way you can do it. Or same thing with the batteries as well. Everyone said that's just how it is. But Elon broke it down and said, well, what are the rockets actually made of? What are the batteries actually made of? Steel, aluminum, titanium, lithium. So aerospace grade materials are crazy expensive, but they're not that expensive if you're a multi-billionaire, I guess, if you break them down to the core metals needed. So the cost wasn't the materials, it was the inefficiency built on top of years of just accepting the norm and buying from the suppliers. Which, to be fair, you gotta be pretty loaded to be able to do something like this, but the principle stands. You rebuilt from first principles, and now SpaceX launches for a fraction of what it used to cost. The question isn't, how does everyone else do this? The question is, what do I actually know to be true here? What's the real constraint? So, just how industries are full of expensive assumptions nobody questions. Think about your own life. For me, the norm was just to go to school, get an education, get a good job, take the safe path. And that's what everyone does. But take this to the extreme. You're a PhD business professor. But then you ask the question, why are your business professors basically driving the same car as you? They essentially maxed out the conventional education path. But the outsized returns are there, but you have to ask the questions and understand what is fundamentally true about reality. Section 4, Inversion. Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger has a lot of good principles, but another one that he's pretty famous for is called inversion. This carries over to things like discipline and subtraction, and how a lot of the time you need to remove things and just pick one main thing to kind of stick with, but I digress. Instead of asking, how do I win? He asks, how do I guarantee I lose? And then he avoids those things. Sounds simple. Most people never do it. Because you're conditioned to chase success, not to identify failure and step around it. When you flip the question, the answer gets really obvious really fast. Probably butchering this, but the way he phrased it is, if I could know one thing, I would know where I would die and I would never go there. Which, I mean, makes sense, right? Because then you wouldn't die if you wouldn't go there. So this is the essence of inversion thinking, or thinking backwards. The other good ones for me are, well, what kills an agency like mine? Not being able to get more clients, bad client relationships, inconsistent delivery, unclear offers, trying to do everything at once, shiny object syndrome. If you think about what not to do, it simplifies what to do. Or if you're in school right now, ask yourself, what could I do if I wanted to give myself the worst possible chances of success when school is done? And then do the opposite. It's also easier to come up with what not to do than it is what to do most of the time. What destroys young entrepreneurs? Chasing every opportunity, not focusing, burning out, quitting before it compounds. This helps you know what to avoid. Section 5, Specific Knowledge, Naval. Naval Ravikant talks about something called specific knowledge. The thing you're weirdly good at, the thing that came from your specific path, your specific obsessions. Not necessarily the stuff you learned in school, but the stuff you couldn't stop learning even when no one told you to. What you spent your evenings on YouTube binge watching. For me, it was business content, mindset, fitness. I'm still trying to narrow it down, but it gives you a good ballpark. Naval says the highest leverage opportunity almost always lives inside specific knowledge you have and feels obvious to you, but others may not know. For example, if you've ever cut before, you would know about calories in and calories out. Eat less calories than your body's BMR consumes daily, consistently, and you will lose weight. But when you see people on TikTok saying, oh, if I only ate lettuce, I would still gain weight. Crazy, right? But if you do the math, that would actually be like literal pounds of lettuce you would need to eat. This info may be obvious to you, but to others, not so much. But it's hard to replicate because no one else has the exact information and the exact combination of you and whatever your interests are. So if you're still trying to figure out what your thing is, look at what you've already been obsessing over, what you care about, what you're good at. That's a good direction to start. Section 6, Expected Value Thinking. Here's one that comes from investing in poker. My friend who's really good at poker loves this one. The formula is probability times outcome. So let's say option A has a 50% chance of making you 200K. The expected value is 100K. But option B has an 80% chance of making you 60K. The expected value, 48K. So option A is better value even though option B feels safer. Most people pick option B their whole lives because 80% feels better than 50%. But they're leaving massive expected value on the table. The goal isn't to minimize risk all the time. The goal is to maximize expected value over time if you're taking the bigger bet. And those are two completely different games. Plus, when you factor in there are a lot more competition going for the 80% opportunity like that good corporate job, versus the 50% home run, multi-million dollar AI SaaS company, for example, you could argue in some way it's actually harder. The real cost. Here's what I keep coming back to. These aren't just business frameworks. This is how you think about your entire life. Every decision you don't make with intention, someone else already made it for you. Your default programming, how you evaluate risk, how you make decisions, how you optimize for whatever. These were installed by other people, whether it be your environment, school, by your TikTok feed. Most of these default programs weren't built for the life you're trying to build. Upgrade your thinking. It's the whole game. So many people in business say on mindset and how you think is the most important thing. It's your foundation. You can't build a strong house on a weak foundation. Look, I still mess this up all the time. Sometimes I spend weeks overthinking a decision that took me 5 minutes to make once I actually sat down and made it. That's a type 2 decision that I could always change if needed. But that's the game right now. You catch it, correct it, and you move on, right? Nobody hands you a better operating system with better beliefs installed about how reality works. You just slowly replace the bad ones. Take consistent action on your main thing and don't stop. Mostly mental. Learn the frameworks, apply them, don't stop.